Are you ready to double your real estate sales and grow your business like never before? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate Matters, hosted by Matt Curtis, leader of the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the last 6 years. With over 8,000 homes sold and more than 4,000 five-star reviews, Matt's proven strategies speak for themselves. Ready to double your sales with expert strategies? Let's dive in. This is Real Estate Matters. Let's get started.
Excited to have Matt Curtis at Matt Curtis Real Estate here to talk a little bit about some of the myths and maybe the misconceptions of social media and marketing for new real estate agents.
Yeah, I think the number one myth is if you're thinking about social media as a lead generator, you're thinking about it all wrong. And I think that's what a lot of agents want to do. They want to be like, oh, I'm playing around on Instagram and Facebook. I'm lead generating, but it's not. I mean, social media is more like social proof. And so in today's day, when you talk to a client, you meet somebody, they're gonna check you out. They're gonna Google you. They're gonna look at reviews. They're gonna look at your online presence. And so what you see on there should help support the value proposition, who you are, and really attracting the right avatar. It's not necessarily about lead generation. It's more about lead conversion.
Yeah. And so if social media is not the area that they should be focusing on, what should be sort of that first focus for new real estate agents?
Well, helping develop that first of all, getting on a team and getting leads. That's really the lifeblood is, you got to have leads, and then we're in that review economy. And so the reviews need to match up, with what consumers are looking for. Because if I go on Amazon, I'm buying toothpaste, I'm looking at reviews, right? Everybody's looking at reviews, even more so the largest purchase of your life, real estate. And so it's really important to get a lot of sales. It's important to get a lot of reviews to back that up, because when you're talking to somebody or you meet them, they're going to go back and look at that. They're not just going to take your word for it. So the best type of marketing is a referral. The second best type of marketing is a review, because that's basically like an online referral.
Yeah. And I think, often, even if they're not necessarily reading the reviews, but they're looking at your overall kind of the overlook of when you look at your agency as a whole, it's, oh, they have so many 5-star reviews. They may be not looking at the specific ones all the time, but once they're looking at starting to buy a house, it's, oh, this agent has a 5-star or this agent has a 5-star. And it goes a long way to validate, not only your team as a whole, but individual agents within your team.
Yeah. And here's the thing about real estate is, it's a long buying cycle. It's not like going out and buying some furniture or even a car. It's a longer buying cycle. The average lead that comes in or somebody that you meet, it takes on average 9 months. Sometimes it takes 2 years, and sometimes it might take 9 days. But on average, it takes 9 months. And so you have to find ways to stay in front of that consumer. And some of that is like, say, a digital remarketing, or like we have billboards around town and those type of things, and email newsletters. But social media is part of that too. So if you meet somebody and you are friends and you're staying in touch with what they're doing, or they're staying in touch with you, that's another one of those kind of staying in front of the person. So part of it's calls and text and emails, but the other side of it is the marketing side. And so that's what agents should really be focusing on for social media. It's staying in touch with my sphere of influence so that they know I'm still in real estate, so sprinkle some real estate stuff in there. But then also people just want to work with people that they know, like, and trust. And so, post about things in your life, and because people want to, work with people that are similar to them. And so that should be kind of like a complementary focus. There are some agents that do really, really well on social media and they get, all the hype, but that's like one in maybe 100,000 real estate agents. And the thing is, those agents are quote unquote famous, but they're actually not the most successful agents, because social media has a cap as far as how much business that you'll actually lead generate off of. And it's not really all that high. Like we can help agents in our team sell a whole lot more homes than the ones that are out there just trying to generate leads on social media. So there's a lot of, like, you can gain a lot of followers, a lot of influence online, but the actual numbers that if you're going to do it at a really high level, you got to shoot a lot of video, a lot of content, And the time that you would spend doing that, you could actually do a whole lot better lead generating, just following up with your
Yeah,
clients.
I mean, I think, the marketing we've talked about in previous episodes, it's just having different ways of different touch points. It's the being front and center of people's mind. And you mentioned a little bit about video, with real estate. A lot of people want to see the home, and so real estate agents are getting into YouTube and stuff like that. Talk a little bit about YouTube and kind of maybe the perspective that agents should have when thinking about YouTube.
Well, like 99.9% of of agents shouldn't even think about it at all. Honestly. It's one of those things that like when you're a team like ours, when you've done everything else, it's just building out your online resume because it's a search engine, it's an algorithm. And so for us, we have to find ways to educate consumers, educate agents, continue to educate our past clients. And so that's a great medium for us as a search engine where it just builds over time. But for most agents, they're not going to be in the business long enough for it to build up for them because if they spend all their time doing that, they haven't lead generated and they're just going out of business. And so it is very, very much a long game. And the agents that do it really well, even like teams that do it better than us, and that's like their number one bread and butter, their number one focus, one of two things. They're either in Orlando and they can talk about Disney World all the time, and that's just, that's really, really good for SEO, or they're in like Beverly Hills and they have just these really cool homes to talk about and everybody wants to look at that. Or the third one is, most people they're talking about marketing in the city and all those things, but it really limits how big that company can grow. It's really a small increment. For us, it's more of a compounder. Like we already have this huge database. We're able to send our videos and our content to more educate our clients versus it being a huge lead generator for us.
Yeah, and I think, there is like that balance on marketing and, how often they should be posting, the consistency within posting and, there is often sometimes that overproducing content. How do you kind of balance those where you are posting consistently, you're not overproducing content, but you're making relevant content for your consumers?
And that's why social media really, like, as a lead generator is not for 99.9% of the agents because you do have to continue to feed it. Like, I know we were talking just a little bit a second ago, you're about to head out of town on vacation. I'm gonna be heading out on vacation, the week after. Social media doesn't stop. It doesn't rest. And you have to have like a marketing team to be able to keep that going. And for that to work, you really have to have a bigger team and other systems and things in place. And so that's why most agents that if they try to go all in on it, they're just going to burn out.
Yeah, and then I think, if an agent is finding some success with social media, they've been able to get a little bit of a balance and kind of finding it. What are some of the things, or maybe they haven't and they're just trying to figure out what's going on?
Mhm.
What are some of the metrics that you would suggest are more valuable to look at from their perspective as they are maybe thinking it's not for them and this is something I'm tired of doing, or it's maybe working and they want to make sure that they're getting the right value from what they're actually producing?
Yeah, I think one thing they say that should always be thinking about is I heard it said years ago, I think by Zig Ziglar, WIIFM. Try to keep in mind what's in it for me is what the consumer is thinking about. They don't care about, your rewards and all these things. You should probably put a little bit of that just for credibility, but really it's about what kind of value can you provide to the consumer? How can you educate them? How can you make them laugh in some situations? Yeah, I think a lot of a lot of real estate companies, or when you try to focus too much on like what the latest TikTok video is and just trying to get likes versus am I actually educating consumers and building a brand and helping people feel comfortable buying and selling real estate? And so it really you should be thinking about, all right, what is my avatar, my consumer, my first time home buyer? What are they thinking? What are they needing? What kind of content would be beneficial to them? And if you're serving people, you're going to end up being successful at whatever you do.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of wrap up the conversation on social media and kind of debunking some of the things that maybe people think they should be doing or not doing, talk a little bit about I think what's kind of the key difference with your team is I think with maybe an agent that's listening or on a different team or maybe getting into it, they kind of see what they want to produce, but then having the bandwidth to actually produce it. How important do you think it is for your team and the team that you've created outside of maybe the real estate agents themselves with the marketing and all the other administration roles to allow agents to actually be able to produce high quality content with like a team behind them?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I think we've got one agent that's really focused on producing content. Everybody else, they fall in one of two categories. Either they're on social media and they're just, kind of with their friends and, kind of that kind of thing. Or I have agents that aren't even on it at all, which I think's probably a great thing for me. Um, but here's the thing is we post about them. What's more powerful for you, Clark, saying, "Hey, I'm amazing," or me saying, "Hey, Clark, you're amazing. You've done a great job with our podcast, marketing, all that kind of stuff." It's much more
Mm,
powerful for me to say that, right? And so, like on my page, on our company pages, I'm bragging about our agents. It's much more impactful for me to brag on an agent than for them to brag on themselves.
mm,
And I know we've got an agent, right? On our team. There's so many times I hear about these stories, and I don't hear about most of them, but I know there's an agent on our team that really doesn't even post. I think, he just has a page and he was telling me, yeah, I posted something about him. I think he sold 10 homes in a month or something like that. It was a really, really big deal. And, he had one of the clients that he just did a listing appointment on saw that post
mm,
and he had called them the day before or something like
mm,
that. And they're like, oh, it was Robert. I need to call Robert back. Because he's apparently the guy that can get my home sold. And so, we're doing all those things. I know there was another one. One had a there was somebody had basically were thinking about hiring their old agent. It wasn't on our team. They're thinking about hiring their old agent. And then I had posted something about an agent on our team, Bree, about how amazing she's done. She's new on our team, but she'd sold a bunch of homes really quickly and having a lot of success. And that got shared. And then that neighbor ended up seeing that, who she's a neighbor with, and she ended up calling her to list her home.
wow.
And so there's all those stories like that that's out there.
Mm,
Um, there's Rashawn, he does a lot of posting on our team, and um, I posted bragging on him, and I think he ended up getting like 5 leads off of it. I mean, it's just, having a team like ours just helps, amplify social media for everybody else where they don't have to put the work in.
yeah.
And like we even do like little photo shoots and stuff at our house where they can get like really good professional photos. And so, most agents it's a cell phone or it's a cheap headshot or something like that. But we have great content to help them look their best
Mm.
online too.
Yeah, and I think, with the agents that join your team, not having to put the stress on them about marketing and allowing them that if they want to, they have the ability to, but they're not solely required to like be successful by doing the marketing on their own. I think that's I mean, it's a whole I mean, that's like the adage of almost everything we've talked about. It's, you have the infrastructure around you that the agents can be successful and do what they love, which is sell homes, show homes, and help customers. And that's at the end of the day, that's their goal and that's what they're there to do. And you've created infrastructure that allows them to be successful. Um,
Yeah, when I first got started in real estate, I wish I had that. Because I was out there putting out signs at midnight and keeping the books and closings and doing all those things. And so I created what I wish I would have had.
yeah, and we'll be sure to have links to everything. So if you're an agent listening to this and you want to maybe look at joining the team and being a part of this, the infrastructure that we've talked about, and kind of uh, be able to grow your book of business, you'll find links below. But I appreciate it.
Sounds great.
That's a wrap for this episode of Real Estate Matters, helping you double your sales and build a thriving business. But real success is about impact. That's why Matt's team has built over 140 homes for families in Central America, changing lives beyond real estate. Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow agent. For more expert insights, visit mattcurtisrealestate.com or find us on social media at Matt Curtis Real Estate. See you next time on Real Estate Matters.